Focus on yourself and stay silent. You know why that hits so hard? Because most people are loud about the things they haven't built and quiet about the things they should be working on. Let me be real with you. Your life changes the moment you stop proving yourself to the world and start improving yourself for the world you're trying to build. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is power. Silence is where you hear your own ambition louder than the noise around you. There were seasons in my life where I had nothing but my vision, and that vision didn't need an audience. It needed discipline. It needed commitment. It needed me to shut out every voice that told me to slow down, calm down, or shrink my dreams to fit someone else's comfort level. When you start focusing on yourself, people will misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. They'll say you're acting different. And they're right. You are different. You're evolving. You're growing. You're choosing your future over their expectations. Let me tell you something. Not every move you make needs to be announced. Not every goal needs to be posted. Not every plan needs a public opinion. The real work, your real transformation, happens behind closed doors, in the early mornings and the late nights when nobody is watching and nobody is clapping. That's where the winners are made. That's where your identity shifts from hoping to building. And when you stay silent, you protect that growth from people who haven't done their own. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour into your dreams if you're drained by distractions. You can't rise if you're constantly worried about who's watching you climb. You can't build a future if you're living in a world where everybody's opinion weighs more than your own inner voice. When you focus inward on your mindset, your habits, your discipline, you become dangerous in the best way, not because you're competing with others, but because you stop competing with noise and the silence. That's your advantage. Silence is where you strategize. Silence is where you catch your breath. Silence is where you sharpen your vision before you step into the world and execute. The loudest people are often the least consistent, the quiet ones, the focused ones. They're the ones turning dreams into reality while everyone else is still talking about what they might do someday. Here's the truth. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. You don't need the world to understand your process. What you need is discipline. What you need is clarity. What you need is that fire in your gut that tells you your future is worth every sacrifice you're making right now. People won't always notice your progress, but they'll feel your results. They'll see the shift. They'll recognize the growth. And by the time they realize how far you've come, it will be too late for them to catch up. So lock in, protect your energy, protect your vision, focus on the person you're becoming, not the noise trying to distract you. Your silence is not emptiness. It's preparation. It's elevation. It's you choosing a higher version of yourself without needing to announce every step. When you focus on yourself and move in silence, you stop chasing the world, and the world starts noticing you. True growth happens when you focus on yourself and let your results speak louder than your words, because the moment you stop trying to impress people and start trying to improve yourself, everything in your life begins to shift. Most people spend so much time talking about their dreams, their plans, their next move that they never actually get around to doing the work that creates real change. They chase attention instead of mastery. They chase applause instead of progress. But when you decide that you're done performing for the world and start building for yourself, you tap into a different level of potential, one that doesn't need noise, validation, or approval. Growth is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't show off. It's the hours nobody sees, the habits nobody knows about, the sacrifices nobody talks about. It's waking up earlier, staying up later, saying no to distractions, choosing discipline over comfort, choosing purpose over popularity. It's you choosing to rise even when no one is watching. And that kind of growth creates a power that doesn't need to be advertised, because when your results show up, they speak in a voice louder than anything you could have ever said aloud. The truth is, people don't respect announcements. They respect achievements. They don't remember what you said you were going to do. They remember what you actually did. When you focus on yourself, you free yourself from the pressure of performing for others. You stop worrying about who's watching, who's judging, who's keeping score. You stop spending energy on things that don't build your future. Instead, you pour everything into becoming the version of yourself who can handle the life you're trying to create. And it's in that quiet space where you start realizing what you've been capable of all along. You realize you don't need applause to be valuable. You don't need validation to be driven. You don't need someone else's approval to take your next step. You learn to trust yourself. You learn to rely on your own discipline. You learn to value your own progress even when the results aren't visible yet. You start moving for yourself, not for spectators. The people who grow the fastest aren't the ones who talk the loudest. They're the ones who are too focused on their goals to waste time explaining their grind. They don't announce every small win because they know bigger ones are coming. They don't argue with doubters because their results will silence them. They don't defend their dreams to people who don't have dreams of their own. They just keep working, keep improving, keep evolving until one day the world looks up and realizes how far they've come. When you let your results speak, they tell a story people can't deny. They show the discipline you practiced, the sacrifices you made, the nights you pushed through, the decisions you committed to. Results are undeniable. People can argue with your words. They can question your intentions. They can doubt your plans, but they can't ignore your transformation. They can't ignore the progress. They can't ignore the evidence of the work you put in while staying silent. And the beautiful thing is, the more you focus on yourself, the more the noise around you fades away. You stop comparing your path to others because you're too busy building your own. You stop seeking shortcuts because you understand that true growth requires depth, patience, and consistency. You stop needing permission to chase what you want because you finally understand that the only approval that matters is the approval you give yourself. So you keep building, you keep learning, you keep stretching your limits. You grow in your thinking, your discipline, your confidence, your resilience. And one day you wake up and realize that I need to talk about who you were becoming. The world can already see it. Moving in silence protects your vision, your energy, and your progress from unnecessary noise and distraction, because not everyone deserves access to the early stages of your growth. The beginning of your journey is fragile. It's the phase where one careless opinion, one negative comment, one doubtful voice can shake your confidence. When you stay quiet about what you're building, you protect the seed before it becomes a tree. You shield your goals from people who might project their own fears onto your dreams. Silence isn't about hiding. It's about guarding what matters most until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Every time you share your goals too early, you invite opinions from people who haven't walked your path, people who don't understand your vision, people who might talk you out of what you were born to do. Silence gives you room to think clearly. It gives you space to breathe. It allows your ideas to mature without being scattered by outside influence. When you move in silence, you make decisions based on purpose, not pressure. You're not swayed by trends, not distracted by comparisons, not chasing validation. You're building from a place of intention instead of insecurity. And the truth is, silence is a form of discipline. It takes strength to hold your tongue when you desperately want to brag about your progress. It takes maturity to say nothing when people underestimate you. It takes control to keep your path private when the world teaches you to broadcast every move. But silence creates focus. It sharpens your mind. It helps you hear your own voice. Instead of being drowned out by the noise of what everyone else is doing, you start to realize that the more you say, the less you build. The more you talk, the more you leak energy meant for your growth. Silence also protects your energy from people who don't want to see you rise. Not everyone around you is rooting for you. Some people clap for you in public and compete with you in private. Some people want updates not because they care, but because they want to measure your progress against theirs. When you stay silent, you disrupt their access. You prevent them from predicting your next move. You keep your momentum safe from envy, jealousy, and negativity. People can't sabotage what they can't see. They can't hold you back when they don't know where you're going. When you move quietly, you give yourself freedom to make mistakes without an audience watching. You have room to fail, to learn, to adjust, to grow, without feeling like everyone is judging your progress. You start improving faster because you're not afraid of being seen in your imperfect phase. Silence allows you to evolve at your own pace. It lets you experiment with new ideas, new habits, new approaches without announcing your process to the world. And once you get better in private, you become unstoppable in public. There's a calmness that comes with moving in silence. You stop feeling rushed. You stop feeling pressured to prove yourself. You stop comparing your timing to others because you're too focused on your own lane. You become more intentional with your time, more selective with your circle, more protective of your peace. You realize that people don't need to know everything. They don't need to understand your plan. They don't need to approve your direction. They don't need to validate your ambition. The only thing that needs to be loud is your work ethic. And when the results finally show up, they speak in a language nobody can deny. People will wonder how you did it, when you did it, how you moved so far ahead without making noise. They'll see the transformation, the growth, the success, and they'll realize, you weren't being quiet because you lacked progress. You were quiet because you were focused. You were building, you were aligning your habits with your goals. You were becoming someone stronger, sharper, wiser. That's why moving in silence is powerful. It's not about mystery. It's about mastery. It's you choosing to rise without needing attention. It's you protecting the most valuable thing you have, your vision, until it becomes real enough to stand on its own.